Yes, the boys and the girls. Right, we are currently in Brindley Village, the ghost town of Cannock Chase. So if you've not checked it out, I definitely recommend you do check it out. And other than that, let's get into it.
You can't see it now, but this was Brindley Village, and before that it was a military hospital. Back in 1916, in the middle of the First World War, this site was turned into a military hospital to support the thousands of troops training on Cannock Chase, mainly around Brockton and Rugeley Camp. And it wasn't small either, because the hospital here had around 12 wards and could hold up to 1,000 patients at any one time. This wasn't just for minor injuries or lads feeling rough from training, because soldiers were brought here from the camps on the Chase and also straight from the front in France. And even after the war ended, the site was still being used for men suffering from gas exposure and what they called shell shock, so it became part of the aftermath as well as the war itself. By the early 1920s, the hospital had closed, and like a lot of places from that time, it could have just been left or pulled down, but instead it was taken over and reused. The West Cannock Colliery Company moved in and started turning the old hospital buildings into homes for the mining families. So what had once been wards full of injured soldiers slowly became rows of houses, and within a few years a proper community had formed here. By 1928, dozens of families were already living on the site, and this wasn't just somewhere people stayed for a bit. It had its own school, a church that used to be the hospital chapel, a shop, a working man's club, and even a football pitch. So everything about it points to a place where people built a life, not just passed through. And when you look at both the layout and the records, there's plenty of evidence that this was a close community. The kind of place where people knew each other, worked together and shared day-to-day life. But like a lot of mining communities, it didn't last forever. And as things started to change, the need for housing out here dropped off. And by the mid-1950s, the village was gradually emptied, with families moved out to places like Hensford. And now when you walk through here, it just feels quiet, almost still, and probably one of the most peaceful spots on the Chase. But the history hasn't gone anywhere, it's still here if you know where to look. Across the ground there are still sections from original foundations, from both the hospital and the village buildings. One of the clearest links back to its past is the original base of the flagpole, which is still in place, quietly marking what would have once been a central point in a working wartime hospital. And then there's what the site has become since, because Brindley Village now holds hundreds, if not thousands, of small memorials, left by people remembering family members and pets, which gives the place a completely different feeling, somewhere that's quiet, reflective, and still being used in a very personal way. So even though most of the buildings have gone, you can still see the shape of the village in the ground. You can still find the traces of what was once here, and when you piece it all together, this isn't just an empty part of Cannock Chase. It's a place where different lives have overlapped. Nothing's really gone, it's just changed hands. From soldiers to families and now back to the land.